welcome to Lead Line, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Well, it's another day and another opportunity to make a profound difference in the lives of individuals, organizations, the individuals within organizations, communities, whether they cities, rural, suburban, urban, villages. We get to show up in order to show out in a way that is absolutely impactful. Today, I am honored to be joined by three remarkable women. Among the many um, women on this planet, how many billions of people we have on this planet? Well, in excess of seven. Half of those are females, at least significant number of women who are making differences in households, in villages, in communities, in partnership, in collaboration, and choosing for it to be impactful. Wow. Our session today, our broadcast today, is titled Standing Up and Speaking Out for What Matters. And in preparation, I was thinking about us as women across this globe. And I was thinking about the women who chose to take on leadership roles at the so called highest levels of countries. I mean, we've got many. We've got what? Prime ministers, we have presidents, we have, whether it is in Ethiopia or Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados, Austria, Moldova, Denmark, Singapore. I can just go on, and including in the United States as our vice president, as well as in Congress with regards to the House and the Senate. And then we've got throughout the country mayors in the United States, let alone in throughout the other parts of the planet. When I think about this title, I think about climate change activist Greta Thunberg. I think about voting rights leader didn't choose to be in the front, chose to make a difference along with many other women. Rosa Parks. I think about the woman who chose to show up even though her life was on the line. Masala Yousafzai, sports legend Serena Williams, health advocate, leader, doctor, medical doctor Amani Balor, poet Amanda Gorman. And then I think of countless number of people who say no to the heinous kinds of crimes that are unspeakable, and yet we must speak of them in order to ensure they don't continue, like female genital mutilation. I think about those who came before us, who are still with us, who ensure that we have rights. Rights what? To drive, to our own bodies, to be able to decide when we get married, if we get married, to ensure parity in pay and opportunities. So the women who are coming on board, they're going to introduce themselves, but I want to share just a few things about them that demonstrates a spirit of an Oprah Winfrey, a spirit of an Indra Gandhi, a spirit or Indira Gandhi, a spirit of Megan Rapinoe, a spirit of Maya Angelou, spirit of Nikki Giovanni, spirits that make a profound difference, that makes us understand our oneness wherever we're at on the planet and reminds us of our capacity now, where we sit, where we stand, where we choose to be. Precious Stroud. She is a consultant, and she, like a lot of us, led in roles. So historically, she was a director of communications, she was a business development client strategist as a director within the Oakland Ed Fund, and the other role was with Connect Ed. I think about her in terms of her statement, her vision, which is about restoring humanity, at least in marketing, but far beyond that because of her bringing together women and ensuring that their voices are well illuminated to reflect their vision and their work and their purpose. Then I think about Tara Donaldson, another brilliant person. As a journalist, historically served in various roles, including with Sourcing Journal as a director, overseeing and facilitating the work of staff journalists, freelancers, as a content creator. She is experienced in the fast fashion industry, and like all of us, well educated, formally and informally. And there's not just one kind of education. It's important for us to be humble and recognize that whether we're formally educated in a 4-year institution or a 2-year institution or any other kind of institution, that is powerful, but not even more powerful than being educated in the streets, educated among our people, whoever our people are that really invest in us, give us guidance about values, about belief systems, about how to show up and show out in an altruistic, added, value added way. Then I think about Shamini, who chose to be a founder and CEO of a remarkable organization, Dhana Incorporated. And she has a legacy in the financial industry as a senior vice president with Silicon Valley Bank, as a lead, a manager with the California Governor's Office in terms of foreign direct investment, as a research analyst years before in Singapore. We all come, and then my humble beginnings um, catapulted me to focus very concerted way on how to encourage people to expand their mind, to find their own internal voice, leveraging higher education. So my nearly 40 years from being a student affairs officer, being a human resources officer, facilitating support of faculty and staff, and being a dean, a VP, a president, a vice chancellor, et cetera, and now an entrepreneur. All of us come with these gifts. All of us come with a level of understanding, and all of us can make a profound difference as we continue our understanding. So today we're going to do something a little bit differently. I have asked Shamini to facilitate a discussion among all 4 of us. So I'm going to ask Jet now to bring all of our guests, these key, remarkable, beautiful, brilliant women, to the forefront into the studio so we get to see them all. So how is everyone?
Good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
so
you.
grateful to be here with all you wonderful women. Thank you.
Absolutely. And before we begin with you facilitating this, Shamini, I'd like to ask each one of us to share something that someone would not know about us. And let's begin with you, Tara. You can't find it on the internet.
Something that someone would not know about me. Well, my family is from Trinidad and Tobago, and I love to play mass, to play carnival, whenever I get the opportunity.
Yes.
Mhm.
Precious?
I am a musician. I play the violin.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Shamini?
Well, but this is not on the internet. I play the organ, believe it or not, in my and that's kind of been my thing when I was younger. I stopped playing it, but love the organ.
Oh, wow. Well, I can't say this is something that people would not know about me. They probably would assume it. It's not on the internet. I absolutely love reading. And those who might have known me when I was much younger, I mean, the last thing I wanted to do was read or write. And I didn't know why. And when I began to have to read and write, I found out why, because it got me connected to the essence of who I am and my emotions. And that was extremely humbling. And so I'm going to hand it off to you, Shamini. You're going to take this away and we're going to go deep quickly. I have no doubt.
Yes. Well, once again, thank you, everybody. Welcome. This is going to be an amazing talk, I can tell, discussion. One of the reasons why we're all excited to be here, not just being from various different backgrounds, is we share a commonality among 4 of us. and that is our service to humanity. It's one shared common denominator, I feel. And so in speaking to this discussion about standing up and speaking out for what matters, and serving with our own unique gifts, one of the things that comes to bear, especially during this time and age, is basically how women are catalyzing change. We're transforming industries. We're using our platforms to elevate our voices. And for sure, we are absolutely charging a way to make change happen. So let's start it off. This most important question I'm going to ask now to each one of you, because it's a gem that each of us no doubt wake up every morning and face the world and know that we are doing what we're doing because of our why, right? What is the why? And let me go here to Tara first. Tara, why are you doing what you are doing today? What is your why?
It's such a good question. And I think, you know, I've always loved stories and storytelling. And I think when I realized the power of being able to tell certain stories and certain people's stories and how that could change the way people think about people, the way people think about the world, you know, it became something that I could do from one small place to change things. And I think that's very thrilling and very empowering, and a really huge responsibility that I take very seriously, to have the opportunity to be able to do it.
And as editor of WWD now, has that really made your conviction in what you do even more?
Yeah, and I think the times have a lot to do with that, because we're in a period where we're talking about a lot of important issues. So it becomes much bigger than fashion. But the benefit of WWD and the reach it has is a platform to be able to talk about some of these issues as they affect anybody, and how all these things, you know, whether fashion or not, are really interconnected. And I think it's great to be able to have a platform like that to talk about issues and to help reframe things so people can be more open, I guess, or at least I hope.
That's that. I fulfill that prophecy all the time. In terms of Black Female Project, Precious, where are you coming from, and what propelled you in terms of not just instigating, but actually creating a movement? What is your why?
For me, as I think about this, it really is about voice. I think about the times when I didn't have the courage to use my voice, and the times where my voice could have made a difference in a room that I did not use to be vocal. And also now the power of the healing that has happened as a result of me using my voice for myself. And then it led to the creation of this platform where many other women are finding the same to be true for them.
Yep. Let me share before I get to Elnora. Why am I doing what I'm doing? I have a story about this. And as a very well paid executive in the banking finance world, traveling to India to oversee an office, I was shown firsthand by a lady who said, while I was in India, come with me. I want to show you something that dominates this in a certain industry in India. And to my aghast, I saw firsthand the exploitation of children in the fashion industry, the impact of the industry as it relates to the waters in India, and also the amount of waste that was being created. I couldn't imagine why anyone would want this to happen and why this was kept the best kept secret in the world. And so it was a pivotal time in my life. And we have those, don't we?
Yes.
And that was the time where I said, okay, why aren't brands taking more responsibility about this? If brands are supposed to be extensions of people anyways, because all brands and companies are made of people, what's happening here? And the more I delved into it, the more I realized there needed to be change to happen. And then that's why in 2008, I started the company, Dhana Inc. And I know, Elnora, you feel the same way because we've talked about this.
Yes.
And, you know, I know that when we talk about co-creating and creating a new product or new service, you can't do it just by one person. It has to be a collective of not only thought, but also inspiration and also an injection of creativity and the real essence of imagination coming to life using product or service. How do you demonstrate this, Elnora? Because I know that you have a lot behind your belt and you so perceive this so well. So I'm going to give you the chance now to tell us not only what your why, but a response to what we're talking about.
My why is as simple as understanding that we are one. When I think about my at least 55 nieces and nephews, and I just learned yesterday I have a new nephew, so that's 56.
Congrats.
And 5 godchildren and a new one on the way, a godson. And then I take that and I just magnify out all the other loved ones that I have. And then I take that and I magnify that out to all their loved ones. And I can't stop. When I know that someone on the planet is not healthy, I know I'm not fully healthy. I don't care what I do. When I know that someone is in a better state mentally, spiritually, physically, and otherwise, I know that I'm in a better state because of that. So I am compelled to literally walk to be, and I'm passionate about waking up, determining how to make a profound difference in my own small way. And I do mean that. And I know that in partnership with the 3 of you, for example, and then many others, I can do that. So part of my life was through education. And so there are thousands of lives that I and individuals, and actually exceeds well over thousands, but at least thousands of lives that we impacted during that time of my leadership. There's also the capacity to do that on a grander scale. And that's what you and I have spoken about over the years. So it starts with vision, being clear about the vision. It moves very quickly to making concrete that vision in terms of a theory, and then in terms of a goal, and then in terms of an action plan, and then in terms of doing it, and then in terms of experiencing the beautiful results. Not without challenges, not without difficulties. In fact, the challenges and difficulties remind us that we're on the right path. And when we address those challenges and difficulties, when we just break through those terror barriers, all of a sudden we see the glimpse of the greatness that we are all about. And then when we actualize those greatness, and people are like, how did you do that? You were like, it's not a big deal because you just worked it. So it's all about leaving this space, this life, this thing we call life, better than I found it. And let me tell you, I am a very humble beginnings without going through all those details. And I know that each one of us, without exception, have the capacity, because we're doing it, whether we want to or not, to influence for something. And I choose to make that something a greater good.
Oh, that's very powerful. And I honor that. I totally do. Definitely. So I want to jump ahead and talk about some stories, instances, experiences on this title, which is standing up and speaking out, right? Or speak. What have been some of the areas that you have felt really moved to stand up and speak out about what really matters in you? It could have been a void, it's an issue. Why don't we start with Precious?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I am so committed to the way we talk about people in marketing. And what came up for me as you were asking the question was the term asset framing, which we get. Is the sound okay for you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little echo, but keep going.
Okay. So asset framing is, let's see, is that better?
Much better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Asset framing is the term I'm using it from Trabian Shorter's work, but I've been following that for quite some time. And as a person who's implementing this work of how do we not lead with deficits in marketing, because everything has always been so comparative. And when we look at public service organizations, we have this history of defining people's deficits as the need that we try to address. And although we all have obstacles and barriers, we cannot be defined by those barriers. So the love that people bring, the desire for life, all of that is what we try to bring into the work that we do, so that phrase, restoring humanity in marketing, that has been born over the last 7 to 10 years of the work, is the only way I could talk about that. Don't we all deserve to be fully human in every aspect of our lives, and especially when other people are talking about us? So that's why I hold it so close. And I believe that I am a practitioner in this work by choice, but also by gifting. In that, when I was very young, I was not very young, but young in my career, things just stood out to me that were illuminated that for other people, it just didn't. And so I knew that there was something that I needed to say that just wasn't being said as often. And then when I started trying to work with other organizations and working with their communications teams or even their executives, and how do we start changing this conversation? And certainly I know I'm not the only one, but I'm part of this group of people all over the world that are saying we can talk about this differently. And so that's what comes up for me as you mentioned that, ask that question.
It's a total mind shift. And I almost want to say a mind shift to the heartfelt. It's like
Yes.
Speak from the heart, right? Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. Tara, how do you want to share with us some of the nuances and stories?
Yeah, I think on the other side of that is, how do we act differently? So she's talking about how do we talk about people differently, but how do we think about people differently? And I think what's important to me is making sure that companies, big corporations, fashion industry or otherwise, recognize their responsibilities as the kind of powerhouses that they are. So having worked on the supply chain side of coverage, Shamini, I have written about the things that you have seen. I have seen some of them myself. And, highlighting those stories is what will help people start to understand, okay, these are the circumstances. This is what some people are being treated like. And that's on the manufacturing side, but all the way through the pipeline, if we don't have the right representation in corporations of all different types of diversity, then we're not only not knowing how to talk about people in the right way. We're not knowing how to treat them in the right way or how to make decisions that affect them in the right way. So my aim is to make noise about what companies are doing and are not doing, what they should be doing, and how do we move forward and how do we get more of our faces represented so that someone can be in the room to say, hey, this isn't right, or this isn't a good idea, or this is why this is not going to come across well. It can't be that just one group is making all the decisions about what affects all of us.
Your latest article on why women CEOs are not getting noticed or being funded was very well done, and I applaud you. I happen to be in that position, so
Thank you.
I could just say that it is an issue for sure.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Elnora, a story.
Let me. I remember watching two of my brothers be beaten up in the 60s by police because they were out late at night. So one wasn't even 10. Came back, he was all bruised. That was Richard or Ricardo. And then Jacob came in, and I don't even know if he came in or if he was in the hospital. Just because they were Black kids, Black boys in the street playing. Kids playing. Those are two of several of my family members that ended up in prison. Now, I'm not saying because they were beaten up by the police, they ended up in prison. Choices were made along the way. They were predisposed to be harmed. And because for no other reason of the legacy of treatment around people of darker hue. And I just remember hearing stories from one of my foster mothers. And I was reared in foster care. Didn't belong to anyone, but I just remember hearing stories of some of her people who were slaves. She was just one generation away from slave, this particular foster mother. And one of her parents lived on a reservation because the person was Native American. And just hearing some of the stories, which led me to want to know my own story. And as I got details about my own story, which was extremely illuminating, and a lot of it horrible, and some of it empowering, even the horrible stuff, I wanted to understand the nature of humanity and why man's inhumanity to man, and why is it that the predisposition is to negate women in general, and why could not we see the power of each living baby, and the fruits of investing in that new child, and the power of that. Now, in reality, there are a lot of homes that are very healthy, very adding a lot of value and preparing infants to be remarkable children, to be remarkable teenagers and adults, etc. There's too much of this society and society across the planet that just negates the other, negates one because of the color of their skin. So I was always concerned about why Blacks didn't matter, why Native people didn't matter. And increasingly, as I learned my own Latino background, Latin roots from Cuba, why Latins didn't matter. And as I saw how people of darker hue across the planet are treated, why people of color don't matter in the same way. And then I see poor whites, why they don't matter. And then I realize it's a human condition and we get to change it. And I have been fortunate to go to different places, to go to different parts of China and watch people live on the side of a mountain, or go and be welcomed into these humble abodes where the floor, I've mentioned more than once, is cleaner than my floors even now. And they were dirt floors and people were thriving and they were making things happen. You don't have to have things or have to have a certain kind of economic standing to have health and brilliance and love shared. How do we get to a place where unconditional love is the common currency? How do we get to a place where everyone understands their capacity to build and sustain their lives? Where faith, where family, where finance, where fitness, where fun are just integral and clear in terms of wealth. And that's why I've moved my life into this area of financial education, financial planning for more people who would otherwise not have a clue. I don't want to take up too much of time sharing that, but that's my why and my passion is all about, yes, we can solve things in an instance. There's too many studies out there where people have gone and they've just meditated, and the entire city shifted overnight.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew that people were meditating. They didn't know why the crime went down. It's because they chose that New York City. They told the mayor, they told the governor, they told all the officials what they were going to do. They did it, and all of a sudden crime diminished because the power of you and I in collaboration. We co-create all the time, but not always in a healthy way. How do we co-create in a way that serves the greatest good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, touche. You said it so well and so powerful and so profound, Elnora. And the one thing that, the one word that came out of that for me is, and it resonated, was the word impact. Okay. So impact has a lot of different meanings to a lot of different people. One way is the meaning of transformation, right? The impact of transformation. That's transforming societies, mindsets, systems. For me, impact is the realization that your actions are linked to the whole entire life ecosystem, right? And that choice that you are given is the freedom to act. Now, when you go into the heart of that sentence, and I've said this, choice is the freedom to act. And we are given choices every single day to either stand up for what we believe in, speak out, and also have the capacity to really feel for another. But in order to do so is a choice to being open. That perhaps that other individual or that other society, that other culture has some wisdom nugget that we both may have shared in common, or I can learn from it. For me, we have come, when I say we, I say humanity has come to a point in time where we single-handedly may be the ones to transform this earth if we only give the opportunity to the people. And I mean all of people. The power actually lies in the people. And I'm so focused now, including the work that I'm doing, is to give the people the power to be the solution to climate change, to be the solution for the next product or service that needs to be put to life, right? And fashion has that ability. So far, we have always seen the brands dominating and the marketing agencies and the ad agencies feeding the messages that saying that you need to be able to purchase this next new fashion trend. But now it's time for the people to say, we want to create fashion. And how are we going to enable that? I'm proud to say that, you know, we're working on this, and hopefully we have the solution and we're going to unveil that. And I invite brands and of course people, especially people, to take this opportunity to look at your decisions every day and understand that you actually make decisions with clothing on. You experience life with clothing on. You taste food and you experience music and you play sport with clothing on. Now, what does that mean? You actually have memories attached to your clothing, and those memories need to be honored. And fashion is the new conversation with memories.
I want
So, go ahead.
I want to share something. This is one of my sisters, Parthenia. She writes, broken spirits don't make the best choices. They are taught not to love themselves. Broken values dictate interest based on what makes you feel valued. She is so on. I'm certain that resonates. We all agree with that. And so when you said earlier, Shamini, that we need to let people, and then you continued, what came to mind was this inner voice that says, I want people to not feel like they're being led, that people just lead. In the way that Precious, you decided to build something. You decided to build something, Shamini. No one said you can do it. You just did it. And Tara, you just moved into this new space. We're all choosing. You're absolutely right, Shamini. But we don't need permission. It would be great if, as a society, set of societies, that we grant permission, but we really don't need permission from anything outside of us. We need to grant ourselves permission to go there, to build, whether it's fashion, recognizing, and what comes to mind is one of my godsons. Brilliant guy. He's got over 1 million social media followers. Just brilliant, Jackson. That young man, he got some different clothing, and I went to visit him some time ago, and he showed me when he was still in Maryland. He's now in Los Angeles and Southern California doing remarkable things. In any event, I can talk about him for a long time, like all the nieces and nephews and godchildren. But he created clothing, and he sold some of it to people. Were buying it for extra, just a remarkable, ridiculous amount. And he did what you're talking about, Shamini. He took existing clothing. He saw the genius of an old pair of jeans, of a this and that, and he just created something. And someone's like, oh, that is off the charts. And he sold it. I don't know if he sold it for, I don't know what, thousands of dollars, but the guy sold this beautiful creation that he just created in his room. So the power, he chose to do that. No one said he could do it. In fact, if he told somebody he was going to do it, it's like, man, you're a man. You're a real man. Don't worry about it. Don't do that, because men don't make clothes. My point is, do we need permission, or we just get off and just take it? And that's what we've all done, right? I see your head shaking, Precious.
Yeah. Precious, do you want to say something? Go ahead.
I'm just grateful for the conversation, and also so appreciate that, because what was going through my head, it was moving quickly and slowly at the same time about choice. And I held that for a moment around values and self-definition. And the definition of self has to come from self. And so when the definition is external, then the limitations come. But when the choice and the view of self is within self, then I can only honor myself. And that self is saying, or that spirit is saying, or that calling is saying, lean into this, do more of this, engage with that person, pull back from that experience. This is where your teaching is. This is where your learning is. And so that's what's coming up for me, and that true honoring of, we all have a contribution. And growing up, hearing that over and over again, I wondered, but how do you know? Well, where is it? But the answer, it was never in the asking. It was always in the just moving. It really isn't to be figured out. It's to be lived and trusted. And that has been a while to get to that point. And of course, there's more and more learning. But I appreciate those nuggets that you all just left for us to just pick up and run with.
No, I'm so happy you said that. This morning I was talking to another group And this one question came up: how can women be advocates for ourselves, and how do we get rid of this imposter sort of mindset? What do you tell people, Tara, when you see, a woman struggling, and especially in your area?
This imposter syndrome, it actually hurts me when I hear a woman say that. And I've been blessed to have a mother who raised me to believe I can belong anywhere that I decide I want to be. And so I think that's the first step, as everyone's saying, it is within ourselves. It is giving ourselves permission and not asking for it externally. I think women need to remember how powerful they are in so many different ways, and just go for the things that they want to do. And I think, that's easier said than done as someone who has that naturally. But one thing that I have found, that's a little bit more of a tangible thing to do. Sometimes imposter syndrome comes from knowledge, right? So I left sourcing and supply chain to cover the front end of the fashion industry. It's the same industry, but I was better versed in telling you where the best factories are than who all the niche brands are or the hottest trends. And so to make sure that I am never the person who feels like I don't belong here, I educate myself on as many things as I can. I read fashion history, I read news, I talk to people, I talk to all different kinds of people, because even though I know I belong there, I don't want anything to make me feel like I don't know certain things or I don't know enough to do my job well. So that's one thing that I would offer as advice, but I just don't think there's anything women can't do. And so the more of us who believe that and lead with that, then I think the better off everyone will be.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. Those are great words of encouragement as well. This goes hand in hand to another question, which is, if you see a void, how do you bring yourself to suggest or amplify a solution? I think in my journey, I've seen a number of women who've had amazing ideas, but were just so timid or did not have the confidence to execute on that, right? So Elnora, do you have wisdom to share here? I know you do.
There's something powerful about each and every one of us without exception. And I emphasize without exception. We have the capacity to be still. We have the capacity to turn down all the noise from all sources, to listen to self. And there may be a lot of noise initially from self, but just consistently, even if it's just 5 minutes every morning, be quiet, be still, and listen. If there are children who need to be taken care of, take care of them. And then 5 minutes, listen. Listen, listen, listen. And then as soon as you can, feel. And for some people, when I ask them to do this, all of a sudden crying just happens. They can't even explain it. They're like, oh my God. It's like years of negating the self is coming out. They're crying and they don't even understand why. And some learn why pretty quickly, others later, some never. The point is, listen. The answers, the antidotes, the solutions are within. Most of the time. So I say, you see a void, ask the question, what is your vision? Hopefully you're clear about that. If you're not, come clear. Find out what your passion is and then decide, oh, that's where my life will be most fulfilled. Then make it a clear vision. Then go from that to a theory, to a goal, to plan, then action, and then results. But come up with a vision. And then ask if this void allows you to magnify that vision. by helping to fill it. If it's a void that really it takes you away from your life trajectory, your vision, and it has no place, then say that's a void that's not for me to fill. If it's a void that's so critical, like Black Lives Matter, like Asian Lives Matter, like Native American Lives Matter, you get the point. Like people with disability matter to me, and they're being mistreated, or they don't have a service that I need, or the fashion industry needs to change to ensure that it's a healthier industry, whatever. You ask yourself, what's your vision? This particular void, will it allow you to magnify that vision, or is it complementary to vision, even if it's on the periphery? And then ask yourself, where's the solution? And be in partnership, in conversation, as Tara indicated. Talk to people, read things, gather facts, and decide what are the solutions, and usually they come from within. We have so much power, and that's my recommendation.
Thank you. It's my answer as well is very much along that line, and I use the acronym VALUE. Values, and here's how it goes. V is for value. So acknowledge that and witness that what you have seeing as a void is part of you, right? So value that, you have to acknowledge. A is for amplify, and that amplify that void or the solution that you need to address with the people that you trust. So amplify it with them, to acknowledge that that actually is something worth amplifying. L is for leverage. Leverage all your partnerships, the social networks, the people around you, the collaborations you have, so that you can now take it to the next level. U is for underpin. So underpin your thesis or what you're looking at with evidence, with facts. Very important. Look around, do the research. And then finally, E for value is empower. Empower others to join you in this movement, because it's not going to be just about you. You're going to take a whole village, a whole lot of people to join in to make that change happen. But then collectively, you move the dial, and that will happen. So I've always used this because value to me is something where, you know, what you value, you will defend, you will stand up for, you will put resources to, you will put time to. And so if that particular void is so deep, it will move you in ways that is unimaginable. Yeah.
I'd like to local who's on, and she writes, I'm noticing many times it is people from our community or families who can be the ones who send us messages that discourage us from our dreams or to reach our potential because of cultural messages we grew up with. What is your take on that? I'll leave that up.
I think that's part of the noise that we need to turn down. And I think even that happens culturally, but I think it also happens among women. As much as we sometimes have a sisterhood, sometimes you're working with women and they don't support you. They maybe feel jealous or territorial or something. So there are always going to be those detractors. And I think we have to focus on making ourselves excellent. And to Shamini's values point, it's like, how can we come up with the solutions to the things that we see a void in, and deliver on that? And sometimes, you know, corporate life is partly playing the game. So if you have an idea or you have, you know, something that you think could change the business, you have to think about who you share that with. You know, maybe the first person you share it with is not the person that you're thinking, and you have to share it maybe above their head in a very professional way, because you have to think about who your allies are going to be, really, and it's not always who you think they will be.
Interesting.
May I offer to the conversation. Tara, I appreciate that so much, because the strategic element that's necessary for navigating these institutions and organizations, hats off to the mastery. I would say, related to that cultural piece, also people, I think they're trying to protect us sometimes, and things that were real for them aren't real for us. And things that were really necessary to be safe, and sometimes, or that were passed down, aren't always the things that are necessary now. In order to move forward, we have to let go of those things to move on. And so I just want to offer that to the conversation as well, because I know it's sometimes people are just trying to help, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing for us.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, as Shamini, as you continue with us, we have 5 minutes. I know Tara has a hard stop. And and I can imagine that there's more comments that are coming in, like this one came in, and more will come in. They usually come in right at the end, like, Dr. Webb, I am here. I had to take a break. I'll be right back. Oh, okay. Greetings, beautiful women. Blessings. Thank you, Ivana. And it's that she's a wonderful example of a student I had back in the 80s who's making a difference. And so go ahead, Shamini.
Yeah. So before Tara leaves, I wanted to get her last comments on the following. And so in today's world, in the current affairs, what's going on, both turmoil as well as the change happening, what are some of the things that you hope to see more of, or need to see at all because it hasn't shown up, and that you wish that more women spoke out and stood up in terms of whatever the industry is or the passion is?
I want to see more people and more companies be honest with themselves about where they are in terms of bias, in terms of racial acceptance and things like that, and recognize that no one is, as someone said to me, exempt from bias, even if you think you aren't, or you are. So I want to see more companies be honest about that, so that they can start to chart a path forward for progress to be more inclusive and more representative. And as far as women, I want to see more women who have climbed up reach back down and bring other women with them. I want to see more women, a quote that I love is, if two flowers are next to each other, one doesn't say, well, I'm not going to bloom because that one's over there. You bloom. There's enough space for all of us. And I think I just want to see more women be supported more so than competitive.
I love that
Great
analogy.
point. I love it. Yeah.
I love that analogy of the flowers. And if I can add something, what we're learning about plant life and trees is that literally there's much more intertanglement and interrelationship and sharing of resources, nourishments, nutrition among these plant life and living species in ways that if you take down a tree, you literally harm all the trees around it. You take out a plant life that produces a flower, and you affect all the life around it. And so is the same with us as humans. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Tara. Precious,
Thank you very much.
Do you want to say anything about what you want to see in the world?
What I want to see in the world. In the world, I would love to see people really telling the truth and living their truth. That would be so exciting. Yes. Free.
Yeah.
Living.
I have this notion about really showing authenticity by your vulnerability, right? It's okay to say we're not perfect. If we were perfect, we'd be saints. We're humans. Part of our genealogy, our whole entire makeup is imperfection, right? And if you look at a flower, if you look at a plant, the imperfection is the one that makes you beautiful. And so as companies, as brands, authenticity is actually to say, we don't have the answers to everything. And it's the same way as being a parent. I'm a parent, and none of us went through 101 parenting. There is no such thing, right? We are doomed to make mistakes. Doesn't mean that we can't parent. And so be vulnerable as a brand, as a company, and say, we're learning from others. We need others, and we're here to make change happen. And I think that the Gen Zs today, because we are in such calamity and climate crisis, let's face it, they don't believe anything that we've done when it comes to greenwashing or anything in the past. Look at us, right? So can we do a clean slate? Right? Are we even capable? But I think the first step is to actually acknowledge that we may have been wrong. We may have overlooked certain things, and we for sure did not put people and planet in the same way as we are putting profit.
Just to acknowledge, give you space for that, and indicate that there were a few other questions. Yet I know we're at 1 o'clock, and I want to honor all of us. I know we want to honor that we have other commitments, and so the question is: do we want to stay on, even though some of us have to leave, to answer these questions, or do we want to come back and address those questions later?
I am happy to come back, and if there are any questions that are specific to me, I'm happy to answer them in any forum. But I will leave all of you now. I thank you very much for having me and for this beautiful discussion.
Honor, Tara.
Thank you so much, Tara.
Bye.
Bye.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I likewise would love to come back unless something feels urgent. I think the conversation.
Okay. Well, I'd love to have you all back. Let's just answer this one question. I have a question for you. Do we raise girls who become CEOs, or do we raise CEOs who are women? Same question as it applies to race. The emphasis is on.
I think we raise great people who choose whatever they do, what their gifts are and their training is. I think girls really deserve to have all the opportunity, like, not to say that all boys have all opportunity either, but whether it's a CEO or a first chair in an orchestra or creating your own jazz band, or it's you develop the next technology thing. Do we raise girls who become CEOs? Wow. I think if we're doing our job, they are CEOs and everything else. But that's my 2 cents.
I totally agree in the sense that it's not the destination, it's literally the journey. I don't believe in the title as the emphasis when we are raising girls, or for that matter, anyone. It is to harness the unique gift that only you have been blessed with on this earth. Harnessing it so that you can then share it with the world, because only you know how. And that the rest of us are here to uplift you in your voice, your work, and so that collectively we put the jigsaw of people together so that we piece out this puzzle, which is the journey of life.
It's interesting. I think that question is very interesting. And I think the way where you landed, Precious, is where I'm at. that I want every female, independent of her age, I want her to know that she is the chief executive officer of her life, that she benefits from having a clear vision, being passionate about whatever that vision is, which is complementary to what you're saying, Shamini, that she understands her capacity to go after that vision, that she understands what it means to plan, that she understands what it means to leverage the various resources that all of us have talked about, whether it's through books, whether it's through people, whether and that she is literally leading her life. I want that for every one of my nieces and goddaughters. I want that for every one of my nephews and godsons. I want that for all of us. When we literally take responsibility, and it doesn't mean that things are not happening to us, they're not that structural issues don't exist, they exist. It means that we are now taking responsibility to choose to address things in a way that serve us best because we know where we're going. If we don't know where we're going, we're not likely to get there. We're likely to get anywhere, right? So being the CEO of one's own life, I don't know if I answer it appropriately to say it's not about raising a CEO, it's about rearing an individual to understand that literally they're the CEO of their own life. And then if they choose to be a CEO of a corporation or build their own business, et cetera, that's fine. But they're the CEO of their own life.
I love it. That was on that note. I think
Yes.
we're definitely ending at a very high note and empowering
Yes.
people for sure. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Elnora and Precious, for this invitation, this opportunity to absolutely share and embrace your genius.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, an absolute honor. And I look forward to having you back on. So you all let me know when.
Will do.
All righty. You continue to make a difference. And I just am so honored to be part of that process with you. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.